All right, gang, I am super excited to have with us on the show this week composer. You probably have recognized some of the man's music, even if you didn't know it was him, in the Hulu Into the Dark series. But coming up, a very cool ghost story, very different, original looking ghost story, Double Walker. Composer Mark Hadley, how you doing today, man?
Thanks, Jimmy. I'm so stoked to be here. That was a cool intro.
The world of horror is so interdimensional, so many different subgenres. We were just at a film festival this past weekend in Sacramento, and every film um, really ran that gamut. We kind of kicked things off with ours, and it's a horror comedy, and immediately it turned on a dime, and it was serial killer, and then it was psychological, and then it was yada. The list goes on and on. And it was really cool to see, and then watching the trailer again for Double Walker this morning, I was like, damn, this movie looks like nothing I've ever seen before as far as like a ghost story goes. So talk to me a little bit about it, man.
Yeah, well, first of all, I totally agree with you, and that's one of the reasons why horror I think is so cool as a genre, especially right now as it's expanding in such a cool way. Like you're saying, all these different subgenres and stuff.
For
Um,
sure.
so I think Double Walker is definitely a unique one. It's definitely it has psychological elements to it, it has thriller elements to it, and as the trailer shows, there are some brutal murders as well. Um, it's not really like a jump scare kind of movie. It's more of a thoughtful kind of movie.
Mhm.
And yeah, I mean, I like it's cool that people are taking away different things from it. It's got kind of a open interpretation kind of feel. So it's been
Mhm.
interesting to hear from different people who have watched it, what they took away from it.
I mean, the premise reads very much like our main protagonist has something pretty tragic. I'm trying to like not give too many spoilers away, but
Sure. Yeah.
um, without you know, by just looking at the trailer, you kind of know like she is a ghost, but she is a different type of ghost as far as the fact that like she's interacting with other ghosts and they're kind of represented in this way of being able to really interact with living beings, but it just feels like different in the sense like the living people know something's there, but maybe it's just the way that it's shot with your music on top of it. But like the whole ghost thing, I always am a mark for because our house that we live in is very haunted, and so the uh, the fact that in those scenes in the clips that I've been able to check out, like it almost feels like Beetlejuice ghost rules where she may not even know she's fully a ghost yet, type of a thing. Like, how is that to play with musically, cinematically when you get that presented to you and you go and you write down what you're thinking the vibe is? Like, I'm sure like the director, producer probably has some kind of input as for what they're looking for, but like what is your process kind of like?
Yeah. Great question. Great observations as well. Well, yeah, so the conversations basically started between the director and I pretty early on when it was just a script. And Colin West, who's a co-writer and director, we just really vibe with each other. So our discussions are a lot about like how do we want the movie to feel. We don't really talk about specific instrumentation or anything like that in the early stages. It's really more broad. And so we knew pretty early on that this film was going to have an interesting um, sort of chronological path or not chronological path. It's
Right.
not a linear movie per se. So I think and that definitely played out in the edit as well as we tried different arrangements and moved things around. So I think we always knew that it was going to feel like we kept coming back to this idea of it being a tone poem. And so that sort of took shape in my mind as I sort of thought about the sonic world that we wanted to live in. as you know, Ghost is doing these. It's such a patient movie, even though it's short. It's also really patient for what it does. So I think just having some feelings of being suspended in time, and also sort of like trying to capture both the cold winter aesthetic and the human sort of side of it, like as she's reckoning with human, like human versus not being human, you know.
Sure.
Yeah.
The tonality of your music, you know, you've done like a lot of cool things, like synthesizing to an extent.
Yeah.
Is that present in this film too, or is this kind of its own unique thing?
It's really its own unique thing. I'm pretty proud of the fact that it came out different, you know, which is, it's a goal. You want to make something super original for the project you're working on.
Sure.
There are some synths on it, like to provide some like warmer pad type things, but most of it is recording and collaborating with a percussion player, and then taking what he recorded and sort of manipulating it in new ways, and composing and writing on piano as well.
With that, did you guys record together or separately?
We recorded separately. This project started right at the beginning of lockdown, so I knew I was going to have to record everything remotely. So I actually kind of let that inform my choices a bit, because there's this great percussion ensemble in Chicago called Third Coast Percussion. They do super creative things, and I was listening to a bunch of their music and identified like in some of their released music, like, oh, those are some of the tones that I want to tap into for this score. So we recorded totally remotely. Sean Connors, who's the guy that played the percussion, was in Chicago. So we just did a Zoom session. And that was last June. And so that was cool.
The emotion that comes through in the film, or I should say in the trailer, I mean, you say that you mentioned the brutal murder scenes. And I encourage everyone to go check out the trailer, because one of those murder scenes takes place with like a shivved spoon. That just looks so freaking like gnarly.
Yeah.
When you see it like filed into the point, like I would imagine you're a fan of horror in general. Like, how much fun is it to like musically build that suspense, and then
yeah, it is fun. It's also really challenging. It's like I do love horror, and I've been a fan of horror ever since like I saw Scream when I was like a little kid, and like just have loved the ways that the genre has expanded, like we were talking about a minute ago. But it is challenging to score those kinds of scenes, because especially when you have such a brilliant director and editor, we got to give it up to Kira Burton, the editor of this movie, because those scenes, there's so much suspense baked into it because of the edit. So really, it's challenging to write music where you're not being overly redundant, and also sort of not giving anything away, you know. It is fun. It's always fun. It's like a big problem solving kind of situation, you know. You kind of try different things and see what works, and not everything works, but eventually you find the thing that does, and you roll with it.
In film school, editing was always one of my favorite things, because it's literally like putting a puzzle together. I always compared it to like the scene with Tom Cruise in Minority Report, where he's got the different screens.
Yeah, right.
Pulling, like, for a composer, is it kind of like the same way, or does it feel like you're putting a puzzle together, or is it more like you feel like you're putting a linear timeline together?
It can go both ways. Like Colin and I have another movie in the pipeline that's going on the festival circuit right now, and it's totally different than Double Walker, not only genre wise, but just in the way that it's structured. It's more traditional, it's more linear. So that is less of less of that kind of thing that you just articulated, whereas
Right.
Double Walker definitely was, because as things moved around, and I think that's kind of why the score has such a uniform feel to it, if you will. Like it almost feels like one big piece of music to me when I listen to the score, and so I think
Right.
that sort of helped like thread the needle as we were trying different things and moving things around, and returning to certain sounds and themes at different parts. When Ghost is on the hunt and she's gonna do a murder or something, you might recognize some sounds or things like that.
That's pretty cool. So it's like one fluid track.
Yeah, this one came out to be kind of like that. It's really, I didn't expect it to be that way, but it works. And so, yeah.
You mentioned Scream, which the score of that film is so iconic, from that first pan of the high school and the dun, that slow riff into the each setting. Like the way he chose what track to match the scene was really kind of, I mean, he was a master, Wes Craven. But is there a film? This is kind of a two-part question. Was there a certain film that got you into horror, and then was there, could be the same film, but was there a certain film or a piece of music that got you like, I want to be a movie composer?
Yeah. So I think Scream was the first horror movie that I was really into. And then to piggyback on the horror idea, It Follows
Oh,
is
yeah.
the sort of one that I always come back to, because that was the first like horror movie I saw where the score really grabbed me. Like
Mm,
I at that point, by the time I saw It Follows, I was already into film composing and like digging film scores and stuff like that, but not necessarily in the horror genre, even though I
mhm.
liked the genre as an audience member. But then I heard the score for It Follows. I was like, damn, that is cool. That is cool. I've never heard anything like that. And it sort of expanded what I thought of. Uh, and then just to mention it briefly, the first film that I ever saw that where film music jumped out at me in general was Revolutionary Road with Leonardo DiCaprio and Kate Winslet. And that score is by Thomas Newman. And I don't think that, it's not, it's just I don't know, the circumstances in my life at the time when I saw that movie, the music just was like, whoa, like I had no idea that film music could be like that. And so that's what got me into it.
That all those films are really good examples of how everything can come together to
Mm,
make a really good film. People, it's always interesting to me where people don't um, appreciate how much music adds
mm,
to a film. Like that was one thing that we always kind of got hammered into our brains too, is that like there's too much of a stretch without some kind of accompaniment. It feels dull, and it's almost like one of those things where if you look at something and you don't even notice it firsthand, it almost means it's perfect because it's
mm-hmm.
just interlaced. And in a lot of scenes, it's almost like with the music, the accompaniment, if it's not there at all, you realize it's not there, like
Yeah.
immediately. So it's always cool when a film is just, the score of the film is just on point, and it kind of like comes in and out, and you're like, damn, that's a really cool song. And then it's almost like you reflect back on the whole thing, like, no, the whole soundtrack is dope. I'm just like so caught up in the overall thing. um Whereas if it's just Leo and Winslet talking with nothing in the background, it gets boring very quickly.
Yeah.
Unless it's some like super dramatic scene or something. But it is,
Yeah.
music does really create the whole chef's kiss, cherry on top for any kind of film, especially horror. Like horror without music is kind of rough. Um, I do, just because I'm a huge fan of the series. Like you getting to compose Into the Dark is super dope.
That
You
was
get
awesome. That was a really cool project.
um Hulu, like that whole chain of films, the way that they pumped them out, and then that thing really started when there was not a whole lot going on.
Mm.
Like, and then the fact that they all came and each month was like a different theme, and they correlated it with the calendar year and everything. That was really cool. So
Yeah,
to get to hang your hat on that had to have been some fun.
definitely. And I think the way that particular film, My Valentine, the way that
Mhm.
it had it revolved around musicians as the
Yeah.
main characters, and there was like a lot of pop song stuff in it, and the ways that we got to really stretch with the score and make like hybrid moments of like, is this a song or is this the score? It was just so fun. It was a dream project, to be honest. It was great.
How long did it take you with Double Walker to compose the score of it?
I would I don't know exactly off the top of my head, but I would imagine like a couple months of
Okay.
solid work.
Writing.
Yeah.
So you put in the same amount of time really goes into the composing as much as the production then when it comes to an independent budget.
Yeah, yeah. I've never really thought about it like that, but I suppose so. I think it can vary because like Double Walker, for example, I was involved so early with Colin that in fact I think I was one of the first. I think I might have been the first person that him and the editor Kira showed the first cut to. So I
Hmm.
was even in post production, I was on very early for what a composer might typically what their involvement might be. So it was a long process, when you're working from the first cut to the final cut, doing music and working on new pieces and reworking pieces as it evolves in the edit. Can be it's definitely a lot of work and a lot of time. But it's
It's
great when you're
so
working with such a great team. Like Colin and Kira are amazing at what they do. They're super creative, and it's just a lot of positive stuff with them.
right on. I'm always interested to ask composers the whole temp music question.
Yeah.
Do you like temp music at first, or do you like nothing and it's all you?
In my ideal situation, it would be absolutely no music. Show me the first cut with no music at all, and let's go from there. But that's not how it goes, and I understand that because especially when you're editing something, you need sometimes that music to sort of help inform the edit. So it's kind of like a chicken and egg kind of situation.
Right.
Um, that being said, I think, and we were just talking about too, music in a movie as far as like how much of it there is or how little of it there is. And I think that it can be easy in the early stages of a film to put too much music in the temp, to
Mhm.
overload it with music because
Mhm.
you're still sort of figuring out the edit, you're still sort of figuring out the flow and the best performances. And um, so I generally don't like temp music, but I understand its role and its importance at times.
Do you have anything right now, just as a fan, that you are watching, like series wise, or a film that's about to drop? I mean, my God, Ghostbusters Afterlife. Everybody I know is waiting on pins and needles for that. But like, is there something that you have seen lately that you were like, "Damn, this is super rad"?
Yeah, Candyman jumps to mind.
Oh yeah.
The score was freaking awesome in Candyman, super cool. Um, I will say I haven't been watching a ton of films recently. It's been
Hmm.
mostly like sort of comedy, easy to digest series kind of stuff.
What
You
do you
know,
like?
Great British Baking Show, that kind of thing. No,
Right
but
on.
there's a new season of Curb. I've been watching that. Insecure, I love Insecure. We're watching Succession now because everybody has been telling us to watch it, and
Yeah, it's the
yeah,
same with me. Everybody's
yeah.
just loves that show.
White Lotus, that score was incredible. Did you
Hmm.
see White
I
Lotus?
have not yet.
Yeah, the series was cool in its own way, but the score especially was like incredible, off the charts.
my wife teases me because I give her so much shit over like Lifetime movies, and Netflix has the rights to You now.
Yeah.
And I don't know what it is about that damn show that I will sit there and I'll be watch one episode each season. I'm like this is garbage. Why did I even waste my time? And then I'll watch another one, and by the end of the second one, I'm like, well, fuck, I'm hooked. And the other night, my wife came in the middle of it, and she's like, "You're watching a Lifetime show," and I'm like, "Listen, it started on Lifetime, and then Netflix bought it, so." Leave me alone. But that it's funny that you talk about like TV scores because that show has the same track on repeat whenever they're going to do something fucked up. But it's now to a point 3 seasons in where I'm like, ooh, he's going to fucking kill someone. I can't wait.
That's funny. I've seen that show. Like if you go to Netflix and you see top 10 or whatever in the US, whatever, I feel like You has been up there for a couple weeks now, and I've always seen it. Like, should I watch this show? So maybe
it's
I'll
like
check
the
it out.
worst best. It's the best bad show you'll watch.
My favorite best bad show that it's my guilty pleasure. I'm totally proud to admit it. Is The Circle. Did you watch The Circle?
Oh yeah. It's the exact same thing with You. Like you're like, this is not like a pin on my shirt type of a thing, but
right.
it's like, yeah.
Yeah.
Is there a genre like outside of horror that you would like love to cut for like a feature film, like science fiction or Western, whatever?
Yeah, I mean, I'm super into thrillers and sci-fi, like in general, so that kind of thing. And I also like creatively done indie drama stuff, or even not indie, but just like the movie that comes to mind probably because it's just one word, like You, is Her, right? With
Oh
Joaquin
yeah,
Phoenix. Like
yeah.
a film like that where it's sort of like, I don't know if it fits squarely into any one genre, but it's a commentary of sorts, and
For sure.
that kind of thing.
That was when that film came out, that came out at like the perfect time to like really make people raise some eyebrows and his performance in it, because that was like right after the Johnny Cash movie. So he was hot, and then he did that, and it was just like complete 180 from the Johnny Cash movie. Like that, he is a rad actor. Like
Yes.
his body of work now, and with Joker, another great soundtrack to that film.
Yep.
But like, God, yeah, Joaquin Phoenix he's the real deal.
Yeah.
Without question. The project that you said you and Colin are working on next, like, is that tonality wise, is that similar to Double Walker, or is it kind of its own like different dive into another area of horror?
It's totally different. It's like it's lighthearted.
Oh, okay.
But it also is serious. It's dramatic at points, and really heartfelt, really heartfelt. But there's nothing about it that is scary or thriller-esque,
Oh,
so
okay.
yeah.
So he's like trying to branch out into just a completely different genre then.
Well, what's interesting is that I think Double Walker was him branching out into a different genre, actually, because the way that Double Walker came together between him and Sylvie Mix, who he co-wrote it with, was sort of them just like really riffing together and kind of coming up with this concept together. Whereas the project that we just finished called Linoleum, is a script that Colin wrote and has been writing by himself for a long time, and really like is a big part of his output as an identity of sorts. So I think Double Walker is like, it's interesting because in fact, we just had a screening in LA and there was a Q&A, and Colin said himself, he's like, I don't consider this a horror movie. So it's like, it's interesting. Yeah.
What would he? What do you think he would call it? Like psychological thriller?
Exactly. Yeah. And I mean, at this point, what are we even talking about? It's a, movie.
Right.
Some people get murdered. There's some stuff to think about, like whatever.
Yeah. The way that this film looks, how it's shot too, is really rad to see. Like an independent film look so major motion picture-y.
Yeah.
Like where, I mean, you say you guys did a screening in LA, but is it doing festivals? Like where are people going to be able to get a hold of this thing?
Yeah, so it already has a distribution partner,
Right.
and it's online now. You can get it on Apple TV or Amazon.
Okay.
I think it's screening in a few cities in the US, but probably pretty small theaters, and I don't know off the top of my head where those are.
Sure. So it is right now. When you're watching this or listening to it, like you can go and VOD it and rent it and all that. Right on. That is cool. I think that that'll definitely be a subject matter of one of our roundtable podcasts here.
Cool.
During the holiday season, because nothing makes you feel more holiday than good old murders and freaking being afraid of ghosts and shit.
Yeah, right.
Well, down the line, looks like Linoleum's up next, but anything else after that you got lined up that we should be on the lookout for?
Well, I make a lot of original music for my artist project called Hark Madly. And so at this present moment, I'm not working on any films. So I'm just working on new music for that project. And I also have a company called Repository, and Repository is music specifically for like commercial use. So we just had a piece in the new Eternals trailer. We had a piece in the all the Yellow Jackets on Showtime trailer. That show looks pretty cool. I'm excited for that one. So yeah, just working on new music for those kind of purposes.
That's right. So what's the Hadley project? Is that just like you putting tracks out for people to listen to? What is that looking like?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, you could go on Spotify or whatever you listen to music on, type in Hark Madly, which is just what I've recently learned is called a spoonerism of my name. I didn't know that was a term, but yeah, just switching the letters, Hark Madly.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And so you can, I have several albums that I've put out. So just stuff like that. And some of it is like ambient, chill, meditation kind of music, and others more like intense production, full on kind of song stuff.
That's super dope.
Thanks.
We just went for Halloween and saw Danny Elfman do his thing.
Oh, you went to that?
Yeah, it was
cool.
super dope.
That's cool.
But the dude does that same kind of a deal where he'll put out just stuff that you wouldn't even know is out there for you to be able to listen to unless you search. And Carpenter kind of does the same deal with those Lost Themes albums. Like he's not slapping you in the face with buy Lost Themes, but you search John Carpenter and there's 3 albums of just him composing synthesized music based upon the tracks he did way back when. It's like stuff like that is rad. Like,
yeah, I mean, I think it gets to the core question. Like, if you're a composer, but you're only composing when somebody's hiring you to compose, like, what are you doing with the rest of your time? Sure. And maybe some people, well, there definitely are some people that are busy enough where they don't even have the time to do that. But that's not where I'm at. Like I said, I'm not working on any film projects right now, so I have time, and I'm, working out some new music, new ideas.
Awesome, man. Well, Mark, man, we definitely look forward to watching Double Walker. We've looked forward to Linoleum when it comes out. We're definitely going to look. We'll post in the show note a link to all your music so people can check that out. But
the score is out as well for Double Walker. You can stream the score. And I just
Oh,
want to
nice.
clarify because it's super confusing and I'm sorry about it, but that is released under Mark Hadley. So you could find my music as Hark Madley and Mark Hadley on Spotify.
So search both of them.
Yes, search both of them. But Double Walker is out for people to listen to if they want to check it out.
But yeah, man, definitely down the line we got to do this again and see where you're at and what the newest jams are. But I thank you, man, for taking the time out and talking to us today.
No, thank you, Jimmy. Seriously, I appreciate the opportunity. It's meaningful, so I appreciate it, and I look forward to hearing the podcast roundtable on the film too. That's gonna be cool.
Yeah, I'm gonna try. We do this thing at the state where they bring in horror movies, whether from 20, 30 years ago, and or they try as much as they can to partner with indie horror films and get those into their thing. And we always, we are brand partners with the state to host them. So I gotta hit up the guy who is in charge of that, see if we can get it at the state. That'd be dope to see it in an actual movie theater.
Let me know. Keep me posted.
For sure. But yeah, until then, we will definitely have Mark on again in the future. But you, man, take care. Congratulations on all the success, and we look forward to seeing what you do in the future.
Thanks, Jimmy. I appreciate it, man. I'll catch up with you soon.
Right on.